Welcome to another edition of Guidance for the Soul Live. Pathways to Growth. How do I come up with these titles? Some may ask. Some are more, well, we're going to talk about that. I don't always align with the highest of the highs was one place where some people will say, depending on what kind of show we're going to do. I want to talk to us about the vision of love for all. That's where I ride. And so sometimes those episodes of growth are actually more about illuminating various issues, right? But this is more of a how do we do these passages of time? Growth is continually expanding our consciousness. We could go to that level of understanding. But what this is about is what can I hope to achieve by going through a visual addiction episode? Some people will say, I'm addicted to the screens, right? We're going to talk. Some people are expecting others to come on with their information. I used to do a lot of that idea of bringing through soul visions for those on the screen. What has to happen, though, when you go through the process of soul growth, right? You don't have to be on a path of I need to connect to my soul directly. If I'm going to do that work, though, many will say I'm going to leave my pathways open for anything and everything. Other people are saying there's already a high point in this episode, right? This is about people who say, I want to know more about my family tree. I have all of that within my heart for everybody. But this is literally, let's explore the pathways of growth that many of us are choosing to partake in without even realizing it, right? How many of us even consciously think about where they are headed versus this is the pathway that I chose and it's the beautiful one for me in the moment. That's usually what we want people to align with. I am watching this video and I'm expecting a raise, right? How many people are saying, I want a raise? This was one avenue of growth in the field of vision of many in this path of development. So when we go down the path of growth, it's not just one. So when your soul comes to you and says, are you working on your career today? Are you working on your family value system today? We're doing multiple levels of understanding. So for instance, when I sit down, right, what comes through? It could be literally I'm looking at makeup and I start hearing guidance from makeup artists who have passed, well, we would say crossed over to the other field. Trust me, I'm not there yet, okay? That is not my forte. But honestly, I sat down, start watching or listening to a book, I start hearing commentary from the souls that know how to analyze the information and bring it through. That's how strong your souls are for you. I do the vision of all, but your souls come through and say, I want to talk to this lady and I want to see what I can get brought to me to prove to me. Most people go into that idea of I need to prove or, I as Brenda's soul need to be able to prove to people that they are in fact connecting on a soul level. All of us are. That's how fast it comes through. Now, I get told things that many people would find hilarious. I get music brought to me. It depends on what my focus is. So let's talk about this idea of growth. When we look in the mirror, are we seeing ourselves as completely whole in that moment? Are we seeing ourselves as beautiful and adored by our soul? People are going to say, let's not focus on the external value system. Let's talk about that, though. Some people are doing that. Some people are saying, I'm on the adventure of my life. That's where I go. I never know who or what I'm going to be talking to. And when I say what, it could be, like what field of division. So it could literally be, I need to analyze the paths of my past, heal them potentially. I discard some of that vision. Most of us don't want to hang out in the past once we go to soul. It's usually a destructive vision because a lot of what gets brought to us can be those painful moments. That's what lets us know whether we have completely healed the vision and if we are ready to move on to a bigger and brighter star, right? Those are those people that will say, I know all of that. What is this going to give me? The paths of growth are a developmental path of instruction on various categories that we're going to be talking about. The first one is dependency on your soul. When you go through the path of soul embodiment, or others will, it is soul embodiment. You're embodying, more and more visions of who you are or who you think you are. See, this is the difference. Many of us actually don't have access to the direct wisdom that others will say that they do. They know they're in touch with higher level vision. So when you go to your soul or your higher self, because there's a distinction in many people's minds now, and we're going to talk about that, then you have access to the consciousness of all. And people don't know what that means. It doesn't mean that every soul that comes through is going to be bold and bright and beautiful and vibrant. And, this is what I get told is like, oh, you used to be that beautiful, ecstatic soul. That's one vision for me that I picked up, and I started reading it, and I started to say, I remember feeling that way when I was younger. I got serious. So we're going to talk about that. The path of seriousness, for those of you that might want to know what that is when life gets very tough, and when you take everything so seriously that you can't laugh at the littlest things anymore. Or it's very rare. This is just one path of growth for me about doing the work. More and more people are going down the path of, I need to have it be hard for me to do. I went down a path of exploration. Now I get to choose different. Do I want to go to that path of seriousness? Or do I want to develop those characteristics and traits in me that I know exist, but due to life circumstances, or is it my mindset? I have to shift my frame of attention often in order to see the beauty of what a serious personality is like. Is it something I inhabit all the time? We are not stagnant. We go in and out of these visions. But many of us held on to various wounding patterns for a long time. And it's very much understood. So the sympathy is there for all. I also went down that pathway of empathic development. How many people want to know about that? It is a characteristic that many are going to reject, right? How many people now know I already embody that vision, I grow through it, and then I land on the other side of it. I don't need to take in everyone's information, do I? You see, when I go through this vision of my own soul, it's literally my higher vision of who I am. And you don't walk with the angels, do you? I use programs in the past. I sometimes get reference to them, and every once in a while when I'm serious, I will remember there's always a higher vibration for me, and that's what we want you guys to understand. You are not just who you are here. You will hear visions of you coming from other planes of understanding, other realities. It is a trip. Let me tell you, you will hear from those visions of love when you do a soul session. And people will say, but I don't need to know that, do I? It can help you. So many people are interested in this idea of my past life, and how does this affect me? What if it's still playing out on another field of vision? These are those questions that people are going to start to get the answers to on those other sessions that I'm going to start releasing soon. But this is really about talking to people and saying, I'm willing to open up my beauty to all souls who want to have a soul session. Now, many are still in that vision of, I don't even know what that is. If you want to know who you are at this moment, that's a great place to go. Others are going to say, I don't want to know my future based on the path in which I'm heading. But you can literally get, visions of career, relationships. It's not stagnant and it is not set in stone. So that's why many will say, oh, I can already see where this is going. But you would be surprised how many people are not really altering their paths that much. And so their future is very much, pattern related. Okay? And it doesn't mean, and here's the beauty of it. Brenda gets told which souls are creating with her. She also gets told what path she is on them. Is she now just a friend? Or is she a family member? Or is she a relative, right? I have people who are starting to pop in and out. But I want people to know that it's not about trying to limit people. And fortune telling is not what it is. Okay, for me, it's a beautiful path of development that I want all of us to think about. Do we want to do the work to get to getting your own guidance brought to you? That's my soul's vision for us is, hey, let's go down this path of discovery and let's figure out how can we get everyone on this idea that it's a beautiful vision for us all. Whether or not we choose to go down that path is a whole different story. It can be a tricky situation for some, depending on your mindset of, am I open to the love of my life? You will never turn back when you go to your soul. Others will say my higher self is more conditioned it's like the mindset. Here's what people are dealing with. And this is why we have to talk about these issues. People will say, I have soul mates, I have soul family, I have soul groups. We create with all. That's who I do. I don't limit my vision to just one or two guides. If you're in that vision, that can be a very, very awesome experience as well. But what happened, and that's the nature of many, right? So that idea of I'm going to hide my eyes in my pillow. There are people who are too scared to do this work. Okay, if you're not used to the idea of energy coursing through your body, okay, vibrational shifts, this is where our whole system gets a reboot. It's not meant for everybody. But when you do the work of, I'm hearing my guidance already, I'm pretty darn sure I'm on the right path. That's a beautiful expression. And when you do that, that's the great thing, is that others will start to reinforce the ideas that helped them to get to where they are, right? That's the thing that people have to understand. Your paths are not, it's like mixing and matching. We're going to mix and match people and guides, right? The guides that I utilize are coming from various planes of understanding. Matthew Broderick is finally going to make an appearance. His vision is, I've been waiting for this woman to feel so damn good in her heart that she can say, give me a soul and I can bring through their heart for them from any dimension that they themselves ride in. So if you say to yourself, I need to hear from my soul, that's one thing. If you're in that vision of, I'm looking for another guide, like, some other angel vibration, I can bring through that vision, or some other higher level of understanding. But I'm going to talk to you guys about the beauty. There's no bad guidance. But if you are really, truly wanting to know, who do I talk to for the majority of the time? He would say she's with her whole soul. She has analyzed every vision and has decided that her heart is more in line with that vision versus I'm going to aim for a Christ soul or, Jesus or whatnot. People will call upon various guides. He's happy to be part of the show. Now, what does that tell you? When you go to the beauty of I love all, even with the flaws that I see in my own mirror, right? I have my own issues with my heart. But his soul would say we caretake each other when we go to those higher realms. Most people will start to vibrate in the beauty. This is why when you look at those episodes of past that I've done and you hear the higher vision of those souls here, right? So wouldn't you want to attract your own higher vision that walks with you? That's the nature of walking with God in essence. Others may have different ideas of separateness in those ideas. That's what happens at some point. That vision of we're all separate kind of falls away. Does it mean that you are being watched? All souls will have those visions of privacy enhancement. I chose to be more open in my expression and experience of love. What I would do for each soul who decides to go on the pathway of growth through my developmental system of understanding is I would allow for each soul to honor their own hearts first and foremost. And that's what Matthew would suggest. This woman has gone through the ringer in many ways. She chose to keep herself open beyond most people's expectations. He's happy to be part of it. He says, I love her as a soul. That's what happens when you go to those higher levels. And this is not about any kind of romantic visions or whatnot. It is literally it's like the realms of love. And you are enchanted by the souls that come through. They tickle your fancy a lot of times. They wrap their hearts around ours. It is a beautiful vision of love. The actors of the world are very strong in my influence. And I say that as a, gender neutral term. Thank you very much. Now, I want to talk about why he's coming through. He says, I needed to have my wife's vision brought through. Do I get to have that soul come through as well? We are in support of each other's vision. We all have our roles to play, is what he would say. I don't compete with my spouse. I have the vision of love for all, but I do understand how we often get labeled as husband and wife on this realm, and that's usually where we go. He's very much in touch with it's like the neighbors in his mind are very disturbing. He says he's got disturbing neighbors. Now, what does that mean? These are the kinds of things we have to create with all of those souls around us. And it affects our vibration. And this is why people are going to say, uh-oh, I already know this one, right? How many people are saying, I hold grudges against my family and my friends of past, or that this is an issue that I went through. And he's going to say, she's going to lay it out on the line. I dug my heels in victim mindset. How many of us can honor that vision and say, I went blow to blow in the mind with another soul vision, someone who I love, but someone who in my mind I was still battling with about various issues of past. How do we clear that out of our system is a different kind of topic. But these are those areas of growth. He knows I don't want to create with a neighbor that holds stereotypes about Jewish settlers, right? The settler movement. He says this woman honors it, but she's limiting her expression about how disturbing it is that we are still talking about race and religion as if it is not a problem. It's a conditioning of our minds to be loving. We've forgotten a lot of those basic ideals of religion, is what many would say. And he's holding it in his heart and saying, it's like I can't hold her hand through the process of divorce. See, in his vision of love, divorce means it's done. But with her, the energy of divorce is still playing out on various fields. And in some areas that I reside in, I'm not even married to the same person. It is a past relationship still playing out. What does that do for me? It's basically the understanding of where I go with that. And so many will say that's a trip. It can be a trip. So is that what's going to happen when you go down? Well, you could either have a soul session or it could be just us exploring the realm of discovery through these videos. Do you want to know what his vision is? I love you. I honor you. I want you to save this for another time and place and back channel. We're all experiencing the beauty of actors, and they get labeled such hideous names based on their ethnicity or their religion or just the fact that they have an opinion and can't express it because others are saying, why do we listen to you? He would say, I will go and I will honor anybody with my opinion about what is right for me. Just because you can get guidance from your own soul or guides does not mean that you lack the free will to make choices. Some people are very, very good at listening to their hearts. Others will say, oh my gosh, I took a wrong turn, right? So let's focus on his vision. Does he have a message for us other than the fact that he's part of that play? He's like, I was a Broadway star. I still hold it in my heart as current. But so much of the business has been altered due to COVID. There's things in the works for his soul. He's planning a new release of his own mindset. He's like, I have to change who I am in such drastic ways now because of the pressure that society is placing upon me to be somebody else that it's like I don't feel it in my mind or in my heart. I don't want to be labeled as, well, we were going to go down these other topics of growth, but that's the nature of it. How many people know there's a lot of pressure on the internet and the screens for us to turn ourselves into labels or non-labels, right? That's another, it's a pathway of growth. Do I go down the path of enlightenment is where most will ride with me, where we say no one places any labels upon me that I have to suddenly take on. That's one role. It doesn't mean I don't honor the visions as they come through. I love learning about the racial disparities and the biases and what's going on. That's my personal growth path for me and my family. It's just for me. But I'm here to educate my children too about different, it's like the variances of soul. Okay. So in his mind, yabba dabba do, that's someone else's vision of love that was coming through with his soul saying, I love that expression. It's a beautiful expression. It's part of our past. In some ways, we're the ancients of the world now. We're the generation in his mind of we are the ones being labeled as the old fogies, right? We're getting those age bumps, those like hip swings. So he's acknowledging all of our old pals. And he's saying, but what it is that when we align with musicians or books or movies, a lot of those characters are very much out of sync today. And he wants to apologize for any offensive vision in his soul that he put out during those, it's like those character adjustments. He says, I can see how so many of us are going to be labeled as bad because of what we did, said, or experienced in the public eye. You know what? This is the growth process for all of us. We don't badger ourselves or others for what we do. This is why we grow. Are we all born with ultimate understanding? Of course not. So let's give each other a little bit of compassion while we go through these changes, either in our minds, our bodies, right? Our ideas about how we are to be in this world. This is the growth. We come to that place of love of self for the most part. Compassion for ourselves when we don't feel it and when we actually start taking on some of those identities that people are placing upon us. That's the nature of love, of soul vision. You start to feel empowerment in your own ideas about, I rock this world. I don't need anybody telling me how to be. Okay? We chill with each other. That's where she goes. We chill. There's someone there that's going to be, yeah, I'm a kind of chill kind of guy. I love to rock this world. She hears from so many souls of music and industry. It's not even funny. But it's because they align with that idea of, I'm still there doing my business. I'm still there making money, having fun, earning a living. How many of us are like at that point in our lives where we're more concerned about the future than we are enjoying the present? Let's enjoy ourselves when we're on this path of discovery. These pathways of growth, it can sound like it's going to be a pain in the ass. Excuse the language, but that's the nature of where we're going. That's not Matthew, by the way. It's part of his soul, though. He knows what that is. He would say, I get it. I'm here to enjoy my world. I have the luxury of being able to enjoy my world, is where many will say that's where that idea of I am of privilege came from, right? I'm of privilege. We're not going to go down the seriousness avenue because we kind of want to let you know what it does. When you can alter your perspective to where you can kind of feel kind of good, it's who you're hanging around with sometimes, people. How many people start to hold up their hands? Oh yeah, I know that one. I know that one. I've got one of those in my family, or I have those people around me in my office place, right? Or my place of work, or whatever identity place that you're going to be talking about. Let's take a trip to the Nile. How many people are not going to the movies for fear of the COVID? That's another beautiful pathway of growth that we are currently on. It shows us a lot about who we are. It shows us our value systems. I really want people to honor that vision that I put out in a post. Many will say this discounts my ideas of my opinions. Opinions are opinions. They're beautiful, they're cherished, they're adored. What we have to understand is the difference between I have an opinion about what is right for me versus I have an opinion and I'm trying to force others to agree with me. Same thing with a judgment of some kind. Now, this is not to dissuade anyone from trying to convince people of a point of view. We love you with that. What we want you to do is to remember that, people. We all think we have it all figured out here. And one of those things that I'm here to do is to show you guys through the vision of love how absolutely ridiculous that idea is. We do not have it all figured out. We do not know what's going on behind the scenes. I know there are many people who say, I'm in contact with the highest of the high that tells me in my book that this is this, this is this. The books of love are being honored. They have truth tellers in those visions. There are also some of the higher visions that are coming through saying we don't disregard the vision of what that is. But when you start to bring through other souls with their visions of love and future, as we're going to see at some point, that's when you know other things are going on behind the scenes. It's not about, it's like diminishing the vision of love. That's where you want to rise. This is where I'm going to go. You want to rise into that vision of love. People love that vision because when you get to those higher levels of understanding, you start to see the beauty of what someone is in that state of, well, we were going to say of adventure, but it's not. She's already hitting some of those high notes with us. Your soul can take you to various levels of vibration. Start looking into it. It's beautiful, it's admired, right? I create from a place of love for all souls. I can't even imagine trying to convince somebody to be somebody that they aren't in the moment, even if I don't like it. Because when you fly high in those visions of I'm riding the wave of love, you don't want to turn back from it. And others are going to say, what does that bring me? It brings you an understanding of those moments of glory, okay? Those moments of pain disappear, right? And others will say, that's a cop-out. You need to do some inner work. I've done my inner work my whole life practically. Others will say, but your life isn't all perfect. And you know why? Because in my mind, I assume that my life is unfolding before me. I'm not planting the seeds of I've got to know everything at every time. But I get to develop my skills in the moment. I was riding high for a while on some of my videos and whatnot, or my post, and I hit a roadblock. And I couldn't figure out what was going on. It was my mind. And then I realized I was expecting the worst from people around me. I was blaming others for lack of inspiration, right? It wasn't a blame others around me for, it was like making excuses for the lack of inspiration that I wasn't even feeling. And now I get to say adieu again because it's about that time. I don't want to go on. I just want to show you guys the differences in the seriousness of topics and then how you can rise in those visions of love that make everything worth it. No man, woman, or child gets left behind when it comes to the nature of soul vision. We're all there creating beauty. And it's just an amazing, amazing discovery process. So for those of you that do want to reach out, please do. Honor the vision of energy exchange, right? Hit like, follow, subscribe. And if you want, you can contact me through my website at brendagervais.com if you want to schedule a soul session. But let's just be in peace for the next few weeks. We have so much going on in our minds around us. Let's take a moment and honor the vision of let's focus on having some peace, prosperity, health, and love come our way. It's like you reach it. It's there for us unfolding. We just have to reach out and grab it. That sounds like a cliche, doesn't it? But it's actually something that people who are in direct contacts with their guide can start to just bring to them. So with that, I want to say thank you and have a beautiful, beautiful evening.